What's going on, everyone? My name is Kurt, and thank you so much for tuning in. I think we're on the ninth episode, show, whatever you want to call it. And on this episode, I'm going to talk about slowing down the fast man's mind. What do you do as an entrepreneur, maybe someone just in today's society who has a mind that goes bonkers, just has a lot going on? How do you juggle that? How do you slow your mind down? So, thank you for tuning in. I'm really stoked to be sharing this. For me, meditation is what I'm going to be talking about. And I've actually got an extended podcast I'm going to be putting out that I interviewed a really experienced meditation friend of mine that I'll be throwing out here very soon. But on this episode, I wanted to talk about meditation and how I do it. Now, there's two types of meditations that I typically go for and recognize when considering meditation in general. The first one is an unguided sit, and that's one where you don't have sounds, you don't have music, you're not focused on any sort of mantra or thought. You're just using a meditation object, typically your breath, and that is the entire focus of your meditation. The second type is a guided experience, and that's something like what you'll see with Tony Robbins with priming, where you'll actually have someone that you're listening to in headphones usually, where they're telling you how to do certain things, how to breathe a certain way, how to basically follow along as they take you through an experience. That's typically gratitude based. That's where a lot of the guided meditations are going right now. I'm going to teach you the first one, which is unguided. At least I'm going to give you some fundamentals. And as we dive into the content, really we'll talk about like what helps and what doesn't help, the progress and non-progress in terms of being in an unguided meditation. There's also some really good apps out there I would recommend if you're really new to this, just to get some training wheels on you while you first get out of the gate to start. And then once you have figured that out, you can then take them off and then just go into an unguided process. So Headspace would be a good one. That's where I got started. Once you're ready to kind of really step it up though in the unguided space, I would highly recommend checking out the book, The Mind Illuminated. And I'm going to riff off a few notes, and I don't want to miss important pieces. So I've got a few of my notes right here in my lap that I'm going to talk about. But the biggest step in any of this is establishing a consistent practice. It's just like anything. If you have the habit, if you actually do it, then through repetition, you'll build some skill, and more importantly, you'll just get in the habit of doing it every day. So with meditation, the key is consistency. That's going to help you. And you're going to have bad days, good days, just like everything else. But if you're consistent, you're really going to make some progress. For me, I do it every morning. It's the first thing I do. I do not turn my phone on. I just go to the bathroom, do my stuff, and then I go sit down on my pillow, lotus pose, and knock out my meditation. I highly recommend that as a practice because typically in the mornings, your mind is pretty calm. You still haven't dove into all the details of the day or been fully distracted by all the stuff. And you can just kind of take that opportunity to really just train and build the mind. The other thing you want to do is you want to set goals. Early on in your practice, especially if you're brand new to meditation, your goal might just be simply getting to a meditation. Like my goal is like, if I sit down and I'm successful, then that's a meditation that's successful, and that's the goal. As you get more advanced, you might be looking at ways to enhance and extend the length of your focus. So as we talk more, I'll explain what I mean by that. But when you're doing unguided meditation, you're typically going through a body scan. You're progressively tightening up the focus of your attention. And as you do that, you're getting to a point where you can then focus on an object. And oftentimes that's your breath. And as you do that, you'll find that your mind will get distracted, it'll wander, you'll forget that you're meditating, and then you'll have to come back to the meditation. And so a goal that's more advanced for an unguided practitioner might be something along the lines of staying with the breath through 10 counts without getting distracted, as an example. So you can't really control your mind. So let's go through some of the technical stuff and some of the basics as the Mind Illuminated points out. So again, I'm speaking mainly from that perspective and my experience in about a year's work of meditation, on and off for probably half a decade, but really more seriously doing it daily for about a year. So you can't really control the mind. You can think about this, but like ask yourself to not think about a pink elephant and to only think about a pink elephant for 30 seconds. What's going to happen? Maybe a couple seconds go by before you start to drift or get distracted. Unless you're a Zen Buddhist monk who's been meditating for years, you're probably not going to be able to stay solely focused on that. You probably thought about the fact that you could think about that, and that wasn't the thing that I told you to think about. So there is a number of reasons, a number of things going on here. The mind generally has a tendency to want to focus on things of interest, of attention. So it's probably an evolutionary thing when you think about it. Back in the day when we were surviving as beings in environments, we had to find ways to survive, and we probably had to focus on dangerous predators or sources of food, and the mind wasn't really geared to just stay and stare at a rock or a wall or concentrate on something if these distractions were coming, or it was just kind of geared to sort of scan the environment and keep us focused. So in terms of the mind, you can't control it, but what you can do is you can train it. You can teach it a lot like a puppy or a dog. If you ever had a dog that you were sort of training, you give it positive reinforcement. And there's different parts of your mind, which I won't go into length in detail about, but the book really covers where certain parts will want something, other parts will want another thing. And what you can do is you can sort of train the mind to cooperate in coherence together. So technically speaking, the mind itself is not something you can control. You can train it. And that's what we're talking about here. Now let's define a couple of ideas here. So when we think about the mind, in the Mind Illuminated model, the way the author describes the mind, it's a lot like your vision. So your vision has a ability to focus on an object, and it has peripheral vision. That's a lot like your mind in the sense that you have an ability to focus, concentrate, focus on something with your attention, or you have peripheral awareness. So right now you might be watching this video, listening to this podcast, you might be reading this post, and your attention is focused on taking in the content, the sentence, the paragraph. Your awareness might be telling you that you're in a room, that you're in a coffee shop, that the room is too hot, too cold. Maybe there's an emotional feeling you have from earlier that has momentum in your body. Your awareness is picking up on all these things that aren't necessarily what your attention is focused on. So when you think about the mind, think about those two elements. You have both your focus and your awareness, and they draw from a finite pool of conscious power. That is a limited resource that for most people is kind of limited and doesn't change that much. But with practice of unguided meditation, you can grow that. And that's where we talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is the ability to kind of drive and build your conscious power so you have more of it. You have more ability to have a stronger focus of attention and a more sustained, powerful, like laser-like, I'm in tunnel vision mode type focus. And you can also hold on to your peripheral awareness. So you have both of those. And that's really cool because as you build your ability and your conscious power, there's a lot of things you can do with it. You can really kind of build some self-control, discipline. You can get more complicated projects and thinking type things done as well because you're able to focus. The second thing I want to talk about is the cycle of distraction. So when you're meditating and you sit down, and I mentioned this earlier, you are going to have something you want to focus on. If it's unguided, you're typically focusing on a mantra, although I don't know if that really counts, but typically you're focusing on your breath. So, the space above your lips, between your nostrils and the air that's flowing in and out of there. So you're focused right here and you stay focused here. You're not going down into your diaphragm, into your lungs, and then back up. That's not the way you're following the breath in this sense. You're just focused right here. And as you are watching that, you're literally just keeping your focus right here at this point. It's maybe 2 inches wide. It doesn't have to be exact how you define it, however you want to. But the point is you're staying at that location in your body while you notice the sensations of the nostril hairs going in and out, the air flowing across your lip. That's the point. So what happens though is as you do that, you're going to find that maybe just within a few breaths, you start to wander. Your mind gets distracted. And so what happens is something comes into the mind. Usually at this point, it's a thought. It's a thought that's like, oh, what do I have to do later? Or this is maybe a little silly. And that will take your attention away from the object of meditation, in this case, your breath, and the point of your body where you're focused. And it will actually take you into distraction, which will then take you onto wandering, which will then allow you to forget that you're even meditating. And then what will happen, a beautiful thing, is part of your mind will remind you that you are supposed to remember that you're supposed to be meditating. And that part of your mind will come in and go, hey, Kurt, you need to meditate, or whoever you are. And it'll just bring you back. And at that point, rather than getting frustrated and going, oh, why did I do that again? You want to just thank yourself. Thank yourself, give yourself a proverbial pat on the back, and go back into the meditation. So the cycle of distraction is all about that. Focus on your object, you get distracted, your mind starts wandering, you forget that you were meditating, and then you remember and you thank yourself, and then you're back into the meditation. That is the whole point of this thing. You're literally working through that cycle, and as you practice and train and positively reinforce your mind and thank your mind for remembering, you can then basically reap the benefits of seeing that your mind will be less and less kind of going through this cycle. The last point I'll mention is we tend to have a tendency to judge, the mind does, and it wants to analyze and label. It just likes to kind of bring analysis into the picture. When you're meditating, you don't want to be judging thoughts, the experience, because that's really not really meditating at that point. You're essentially re-engaged with the mind, and it's sort of slipping in through the back door, going back in and trying to sort of re-engage and take over. And that's not really what it's all about. It's really about being non-judgmental, completely observant and objective to the experience, and just allowing yourself to create that space so you can see these thoughts, these experiences, but you're not necessarily judging them. Now, I'm going to get into a bit more of like how to do it and wrap this up because we're running a bit long. But the first thing I want to say is to all that, again, you have your attention, your peripheral awareness. You want to have both of those while you're meditating. So even when you're deeply focused on your meditation object, you still want to be slightly aware. And that helps you stay focused on the task at hand. With the next part of this video, what I'm going to do in this podcast, I'm going to talk about the actual steps that you want to go through. So the first thing I'll say is you want to have a pre-meditation checklist. And this is just something that you go through right before you sit down to go in the meditation. It prepares you in your mind and it sets your intention. So the first thing I'd recommend doing is reminding yourself of your motivation. Why are you doing this? For me, a lot of times I remind myself, one of my biggest ones was just having a better attention span, having the ability to focus more, and developing self-awareness were huge ones for me. The second thing you want to do is have a goal. Again, like we talked about in the beginning of the video, in the content here, a goal of like what you're going to accomplish in this meditation session. Is it getting to the breath? Is it not? Is it just sitting down and doing it? Whatever it is. Distractions. If you have a lot of stuff going on in your life, I recommend just writing a list down, a laundry list or whatever. Just get it written down so that you can not have it on your plate when you go through this process. That's going to help you to just feel more at ease and not feel like they're just bubbling up. So just write them down on your phone, on a journal. I recommend just looking at things that could be distracting for the next period of time that you're allocating to your meditation and just writing those out. Lastly, posture. It should be upright. You should be sitting upright most likely. For me, I have a pillow. I linked in the post where you can just get something like that on Amazon. You sit on that lotus pose, so you cross your legs, your hands and your body. You just want to have your stuff relaxed, essentially, in a place where you're not in a stressed out position physically, so that you can just kind of like let the energy go, all of your body. Mouth is usually closed, tongue usually at the top of your roof of your mouth, slightly relaxed, jaw, face, shoulders relaxed, arms relaxed, just kind of loose and limp on the sides. And then for me, I like to have my back supported by the foot of my bed. So I kind of meditate at the foot of my bed, and I have a window that I can look out before I sit down. The last thing you want to do is you want to go through a progression. With unguided meditation, there's kind of 4 steps to the progression. The first step is to just, when you sit down after you've gone through your point checklist before the meditation, sit down, expand your awareness, and now let everything that your sensations can pick up come into you. The next step is to constrict your awareness and close your eyes and go to just your body. So now you're just experiencing sensations within your body. The third step is to restrict your attention down to your breath. And at this point, what you're doing is you're just restricting your attention to the air flowing all the way down, your diaphragm rising and falling, as well as the feelings that you get at your nostrils, basically all the experience you're getting within your breath. And then the final point is to restrict down just to the nostril area within the surface of your breath. At that point, you've kind of progressively stepped down and tightened up the boundary of where you're allowing your attention to go, all while attempting to maintain peripheral awareness. And now you can do this sort of classic 10 count for breaths. So you can go in 1, out 2. And I don't say in and out, I just go 1, 2. So I'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I go 1. And then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4. Each breath for each count, breathing in 1, breathing out 2, breathing in 3, breathing out 4. I do this up to 10. I usually have to repeat the 10 count, the 10 cycle 10 count, 2 or 3 times before I'm kind of settled and I can stop counting and just stay focused on the breath without my mind wandering. Because the mind, again, if it's really active, you've got to keep it active. You got to give it something that's active and step it down. You can't just ask it to stop all of a sudden. So anyways, I hope that helps. This ran quite a bit longer than I wanted to, but there was so much to put out there. I wrote a lot more details about the process in the post. If you have any questions, comments, if you like this, hit the like, throw me a comment, let me know what your feedback is. Love to hear what you like as far as meditation. And until next time, keep crushing.